Everybody with me now. You ready? Boom, baby, boom. Rise and shine. It's your morning motivation time. Your host with the most is Marky Satan. This morning you are in for a treat. This morning I am extremely motivated and I want to share this energy with you guys today because it's hard to get motivated. You know, I do this show every morning, but this time this day on today, we're going to talk about extreme responsibility. And if it wasn't for me, I'm going to let you guys listen in on the show too, because I've been working on it, not just by myself, but I've been really working on it and studying it. And last night I came across the video, right? I'm going to get this show on the road with you. Give over, take, baby. Give over, take. Give over, take, baby. Beards on shirts. The beard covers the shirt. Do you see that? That's beards on shirts right there. So here's what's going on, and this is how it happened. Your boy Saint got in on a video, and I want you to get The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's a free audiobook, and I think it's the title's mislabeled. I'll just tell you right off the bat. We can do a review of this audiobook, but it's completely mislabeled because it's really the art of extreme responsibility, and that's what we're talking about today on Sunday, day before Labor Day. Is this The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. And Mark Manson, just like me, Mark Saint, really goes deep into responsibility. And as I roll this blunt this morning, I'm going to talk about our choices. And I always say choose better habits. This is Saint's addiction. It's a motto. It's what it is. It's about to be 100 degrees outside today, so I think I might just... Should I roll it inside? Yeah, like I'm already hot. So if I can get this information in without it being super duper hot, I think that's just what we're gonna have to do. So let's do that first. It's fucking hot out here. I wanted to get the morning motivation and things extremely hot. And I don't want to be hot. Oh, it feels so good. Air conditioning. Okay, yes. 110 out there, dude. It's stupid, and I have a shirt on. So unless you want the shirt off show again, let's go in here and get this show going. Shout out to Photos on Blankets, your boy Marky Saint. If you want your own photo, image, any image you want, we can make it 5 foot by 7 feet. It's huge. Whew, I feel so much better making that decision. Okay, so that's where we're gonna go. We're gonna dump right into it. For those that are watching the show, action, Jackson. That's what it's gonna take to change your life. It's gonna take a straight up, concentrated effort of action. And unfortunately, I think that's what we do. We make a lot of inaction. And that's why we have to have this conversation today. Me, you, the world of extreme responsibility and taking extreme responsibility of the decisions we make. A lot of us are sitting in our ego, in our outcomes, and we're blaming what had happened to us and pretending like we didn't make a decision at all. And unfortunately, that's what it looks like in the real world. Is there's a lot of people that want the power, but they don't want the responsibility. And the thing that shocked me the most and what he said, shout out to Billionaire Hemp Wraps. We're going to be rolling a Millie Mango Billionaire Hemp Wraps. These are super dope. We're going to be rolling that. And shout out to Monkey Tail. Even though this thing wants to keep falling, even though I'm trying to hold it up, there you go. Monkey Tail. Get yourself a Monkey Tail and definitely join Weed Club. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way before we jump into it. He said, with great power comes great responsibility, was a quote that he was quoting for somebody. And everybody, you mean Uncle Ben from fucking Spider-Man, dude? Like everybody knows with great power comes great responsibility, but he flipped it. With great responsibility comes great power. And everybody wants to be powerful, but nobody wants to be responsible. Everybody wants to be a victim. Everybody wants to be, and partially me too. I know it's not external from me. I felt that besides for my abusive action and butting heads with a single mom and losing a child, I felt like I was alone. And then my friends started a call. And then I started doing the research. And I realized just how powerless I was. I started to realize that I acted that way because I felt so powerless. When I'm powerless, I seek control. I don't know about anybody else or anybody else that's going to be honest with themselves or with their lives, but this is what it's going to take to get to healing. It's going to take some action, because a lot of us, we just sit there. God, this air conditioning feels so much better than outside. It's so much easier to blame someone else and be like, life's not fair. I'm hating life right now. Fuck my life. I used to say that a lot. Now I had to switch it to I love my life, because I do. I genuinely do love my life. The moment I don't hair in my mouth. The moment I stop acting like a victim and start taking responsibility for it, it's not just a cliche. It was a rapid power. I know I play a little bit with him, but he's so much better at talking about it because he talks like I'm talking to you. He talks in real terminology, and that's what he was talking about. Spending time over at Russia, and how people we use so many fake hi, good morning, and we do so many fake intros and hi, how are you, even though we really don't care how the person is. We're just trying to be polite, and then we're trying to manipulate them by thinking that we're nice by design. Whereas when he was in Russia, they don't do that shit. If they think that your idea is stupid, they actually tell you to your face. They don't just go, oh yeah, you're so smart, yeah, that'll really work, let's do lunch, let's do some LA fake shit. And I think we all know what that LA fake shit looks like. I think we all know when somebody's smiling in our face and telling us a lie, but we continue the lie. That's the tough part right now, is we continue the lie. We continue to tell it and saying, yes, I'm okay, and you're okay, and everybody's okay. Let's just constantly stay positive. There's nothing to see here unless it's positive. It's a toxic positivity, where we're not being real to ourselves anymore, that we won't really tell the truth, and we just tell some lies and we make it up inside. And that was something that started to shock me, right? Before I started to cope with this loss and putting it on her, or then putting all the responsibility on me, I was looking for a strategy, something inside of my brain that would say it works, right? And I don't know any people that do that often, but when such situations happen, and they happen to us all, we have to process it. And unfortunately, we only process half truths. He was going on talking about how people used to, especially in the late 80s, used to talk about repressed memories and how they never knew. And this lady went on and talked about how her dad touched her. And he's like, I never touched you. But then it turned out that she had been a feminist, and that she had lost her relationship with her father, and she was dating somebody that was also a victim. She started spending a lot of time with child molested victims, and she started to wear their story and make up a story. So we fill in things in our brain. We fill in the story that's missing. We start to say to ourselves, oh yeah, that's what happened, because it makes our brains feel good. We literally lose details. We're not really computers, but all we are is feelers. So by the time we go and retell the story 17 different times, and we missed that one part, but we filled it in because we said it at that time on the 13th time, and then we started to believe the lie. And instead of believing in our power of taking time, now saying, okay, that was the action of before, right? If I keep making bad decisions, or if I keep being irresponsible with my power, right? This is something huge for all of us, because we're so powerful, and yet we don't give ourselves any credence at all. We just say, life happened to us, not for us. And I've been saying that all this week because I thought it was such a tremendous outcome. And then my other buddy said, Mark, don't ever give up. You're carving a path. Shout out to Luzo Logic. I just totally what do you call that? Dyslexic, his name. But yeah, dude. I mean, he was like, Mark, don't ever quit. You're carving a path that doesn't exist. This truth of telling real truths, man, to ourselves, and going like, okay, this is embarrassing. So most of us would rather cover it up because we don't want to be embarrassed. We're not brave enough to show our mistakes. We only going to be covering up what's inside instead of exposing what's really inside, like the light. And we don't expose our light. Instead, we hide it. We think that we're going to be judged by it. We pretend like everything's okay. We all got our shit together, and we're surrounding in an environment where that's what all people do. They're interested in showing you that they got their shit together. They're interested in showing you that everything's made out of, I don't know, what do they used to say? Lollipops. This isn't all just chutes and ladders. This isn't just all smiles and frowns. You will take a loss. All of us, we all have to take a loss like a boss. Maybe not like a boss, but we're going to take a loss. And those losses is what defines us. Does that not make sense to anybody else? Because if we're sitting, and as this guy's explaining, and I'm explaining, I'm trying to digest a 4-hour audiobook. So you're more than welcome to jump in it. And I'm going to play some bits here at the end, but I'm just trying to translate some of this for you. So you're just like, what? Saint's just playing somebody's audiobook? I can just listen to it myself. Please listen to it yourself. Everyone needs to listen to this themselves. And I'm not just joking and doing a audiobook review. I'm being dead dog serious when it says, like, there's a lot of stuff that we do out of pleasing folks. There's a lot of stuff that we do just to get along. We're afraid of conflict. Just had another conflict with one of my reliable models. She said she was going to do something and didn't do it. And I said, hey, yo, you got to be accountable. She said, oh my God, this doesn't sound like you. Did you get the entities take you? And she blocked me or unfriended me. And I said, that's cool. I mean, but we're not children anymore. You can bury your head in the bush, but you promised me that you were going to do something. This is your word, is it not? And I started thinking, women are the worst at flaking it because they just learned that they can throw a temper tantrum and not have any consequences. But there's always consequences. There's consequences to every action that we make. And we're just on some shit where we were just like, well, as long as I'm comfortable, I'm in no threat. And that is the threat, is because we think that we're comfortable, that we're protected, but there's no such thing. We can't hold the world away from us. Like we said, they used to say, can't nerf the world, bro. Life is going to come after you for life, death, love, hate, fear. It's coming for you for all of the signals, all of the emotions that we all have, and all the loss that we all have. Of course, everybody wants to show you that they got money, they got cars, they got a wife, they got a kid, they got all these things, but that's not the truth. Is what we got to have is inner peace. All right, some sort of I'm okay with what's going on versus I'm trying to change everybody's perspective of what's going on. I'm trying to prove to other people these lies that I believe because this is the only thing that gives me my consciousness or my happiness, and I chase pleasure. All I'm doing is telling my brain, hey, you're doing awesome, and as long as I keep chasing awesome, then I'll be awesome. And what's ends up happening is we get these faux woke motherfuckers, fake spirituality, that leave you no room, that always say, stay positive, stay positive. They're not always going to be positive days. There's going to be some negatives. There's going to be some valleys, peaks and valleys, y'all, peaks and valleys. But they don't want that to be the truth. They want us to live in the lie. Right? When we're all just going to have to make it. Everybody's just making so much money and everybody's just so happy on these social media. We don't show our mistakes. We're not willing to be the mistake masters. We're too scared of our friends thinking and judging us and saying what's going to be happening, or someone coming around and go, oh my God, I can't believe you just did that, or I can't believe you just said that, and all sorts of weird shit that we do, that we try to control the outcome instead of controlling ourselves. We're also busy trying to assimilate and match everybody, when the truth is our truth is different than everyone else's. That we all need to come real with everyone and stop telling lies like, I'll call you tomorrow. You're not calling me tomorrow. You're just going to block me tomorrow. You're going to just ignore your responsibility to the equation and try to pass it on as if you can put your head in the sand and not be a person of your word. And that's some of the things I get on with my reliable models. It's like, it's not cute when you promise somebody that you're going to do something and then you shy away and hope that everybody forgets that you gave your word. You're the one that gave your word. You're going to have to be the one that gets extreme responsibility on your word and say what you mean and mean what you say. And people are going to start to evaluate you that way, not the way that you thought you were controlling people by your, and all of us are external, not message, but external images that we send to everybody else because we can convince everyone else of the things that we're convinced of. Sort of like the lady that was convinced that her father touched her. It was a complete lie. And she was so mad, she had apologized and destroyed the family, and the dad died, and it was an embarrassment, and she never could get it back, and all these different things that we do. But that's what ends up happening in our heads. We built in a thing. Did I already shout out? Yeah, I did. Billionaire hemp wrap. We're going to be rolling it. It smells so good. We're going to have these memories and these emotions tied to these memories that didn't even happen. Like, we literally made up a whole fucking story of our lives inside of our heads that we retell everyone else daily. We go inside these things and we go like, yeah, that's what happened. And let me tell this story 17 different times and let me reiterate it so I can keep it going. And I'm gonna keep that energy flowing instead of creating new energy and putting my energy into my future self and saying, okay, future self, you did these things. You know what I mean? You've isolated yourself before, right? Like, people do that shit before. You've told lies before. You know what I mean? You've made mistakes before, and you will make more. That's the best part about this life, is it's such a huge experiment that we're reaching and all learning, and other people are trying to convince others that they got the answers. When you know, like I know, no one has the answers because the future's untold. You don't know what kind of thing you're going to have to suffice. Anne Heche burning up inside of a house. I'm sure she never thought she would be burned alive inside of a car after a car accident going through a house. I'm sure that was never on her fucking radar, and now it's all over the fucking news and everybody's heard about it, but no one knew why it happened or how it happened. You're going to look for the how, but you already know how. It's you. You were driving a car. And whether it's an accident or you're responsible, that's how he was describing it to me. I'm gonna try to find this in this audiobook. I'll try to find that section, but how he talked about, in car accidents, right? When we all have car insurance, we're all looking for blame or whoever. But the fact is like, even if it is an accident, we have insurance to be responsible. We take responsibility for things that maybe we didn't actually do. Someone might have hit you, but you're going to need insurance to save your own car. You're going to need assurance to save your own ass. And you're going to need responsibility to be a real human. And that's what we're going to learn today, is when I want you to do, and I told you the last one I did was fuck your feelings. And the guy was amazing. He was a Navy SEAL, and the way he explained things just opened my mind. But this one, the subtle art of not giving a fuck. Come on, bitch. Rotate. Please, it's free right now. It's got your boy Jericho, what's his name from fucking Iron Man. The subtle art of not giving a fuck. And I'm gonna just play it a little bit because it's so real to me.
Chapter 1. Don't try. Charles Bukowski was an alcoholic, a womanizer, a chronic gambler, a loud, a cheapskate.
No, that ain't it.
We realize that we're never going to cure cancer or go to the moon or feel Jennifer Aniston's way to invent some. I think what most people, especially educated, pampered middle-class white people, consider life problems are really just side effects of not having anything more important to worry about. It then follows that finding something important and meaningful in your life is perhaps the most productive use of your time and energy. Because if you don't find that meaningful something, your fucks will be given to meaningless and frivolous causes. Subtlety number 3, whether you realize it or not, you are always choosing what to give a fuck about.
Yep.
People aren't just born not giving a fuck.
And that was another thing too, where people try to close out their emotions or pretend like they don't give a fuck. The truth is you are giving a fuck about something. You're putting your energy towards something. You are, then what he kept saying last night that really helped me was things that we value and things that we put value to. Our values, something we don't really talk about a lot because it sounds more religious, but our values is what we're chasing every day. Our values are the things that we say, this is me, it's worth me putting my lifespan into. This is the stuff that I constantly chase. And if you're being really real about your honesty, you go like, shit, maybe I've been chasing approval this whole time. Maybe I'm trying to chase attention. You know what I mean? There's a lot of spiritual shit in here where you're just like, whoa, where are my values? Where are my mind and my energy? Where do I put my meat? If you're gonna fuck this bitch called life and you're putting your meat up in her, do you know what the meat is? And that's what it is. It's your money, it's your energy, it's your attention, and it's your time. Everybody's got some fucking skin in the game, bro, and that's the meat. There's the meat on the bones. And what are you gonna put your energy towards? What are you gonna put your money towards, your attention towards, and your energy towards? And now you know what your values are. And most of us will be shocked at what we value or what we put energy behind after all these years. People still put energy into things that they didn't even know is why they're doing it. That was the thing that I wanted to wake people up and just go, A non-decision is a decision. It's almost like the person that's not voting. They're like, my vote doesn't count. Well, your vote is counting against the person that would have voted. Okay, this is the life that we're choosing. These are the responsibilities that I'm talking about, and not all of us are ready to take this kind of real responsibility. Let's get in it. All right. I played.
In fact, we're born giving way too many fucks. Ever watch a kid cry his eyes out because his hat is the wrong shade of blue? Exactly. Fuck that kid. When we're young, everything is new and exciting, and everything seems to matter so much. Therefore, we give tons of fucks. We give a fuck about everything and everyone, about what people are saying about us, about whether the cute boy/girl called us back or not, about whether our socks match or not, or what color our birthday balloon is.
Yep.
As we get older, with
Totally
the benefit of
obsessed.
experience, and having seen so much
Totally
time
obsessed.
slip by, we begin to notice that most of these sorts of things have little lasting impact on our lives. Those
Right.
people whose opinions we cared about so much before are no longer present in our
school,
lives.
middle
Rejections that
school.
were painful in the moment have actually worked
Can't
out for the
remember.
best. We realize how little attention
remember that
people pay to the
rejection.
superficial details about us, and we choose not to obsess so much over them. Essentially, we become more selective about the fucks we're willing to give.
That's
This is
it.
something
Let's
called
become
maturity.
more selective
not
about
me.
the fucks we want to
Fighting back
give.
tears, screams clawing at my throat. The most
up.
upsetting news. The scariest threats. World War II might
Hold on.
cause of the emotions that overwhelm us. Once we
BBB.
understand that root
Yes,
cause,
baby.
we can
Diddy
ideally do
Mac.
something
Woo,
to change
woo,
it.
woo, 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 woo.
But there's another,
Bro,
even deeper
I'm-
level
I'm-
of the self-awareness on you.
I'm in this, bro. If you get a chance, it's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck is right here. I'm literally watched this as a 4-hour, 5-hour audiobook, and it was so tremendous last night
And
about
that one
giving
is full
people
of fucking tears.
real
The third level is our
responsibility
personal
and stop being
values.
so
Why do I consider this to be
egotistical about
success
my
slash
problems
failure?
and that
How
everything
am I
is my failure and I'm the only one that failed and I'm the only one in life. I kind of owned it in a very egotistical way because I'm the only person in human history that's ever lost something, and I deserve some attention and I deserve some responsibility is really what I learned from this. I deserve to be responsible for my actions, and that way I can be accumulating from the mistake, right? Like if there was no skin in the game, I wouldn't have learned, right? Like if I didn't actually experience it, I can't say shit, and that's something that I've been really learning. This helped me, bro. This 5 hours the last night I've been able to just smash this. I don't know if it's the way the guy talks, like you said, fuck that kid. You know what I mean? Like that's so funny. Like you never expect a show to go like that, and someone to say fuck a child, but or fuck your feelings. These are tough books, you know, the subtle art of not giving a fuck. They say the word fuck, and people might turn off the message, if you will. You know, we don't want to hear that shit. But the truth is there's a lot of shit out there. There's so many things out there that we think that we're the only ones going through the shit, and it turns out that we're not. We're all human. We all have fears. We all have strategies of coping with our own realities. And one of the things that he gave us to say is to take extreme responsibility. Be like, yo, if I had the energy to do something, he put it like this. He goes, okay, so someone puts a gun to your head and tells you, similar to like what Larry Olson said when he said, you know, hey, we're gonna sing today, and everybody got scared and, you know, freaking out like they're gonna all have to sing in front of their coworkers and be embarrassed and be in public and public speak, and even worse, public sing, and everybody's heart rate went up, and you start freaking out, and that's your results. Because if you were somebody that loves karaoke and knows you can sing like a cardinal, this is your day to shine. And he was saying the same motherfucking thing. That'd be you, bro. If someone says, yo, you need to run 27 fucking miles today, a half marathon, or I'm gonna shoot your fucking brain out, you're gonna be like, oh shit, dude. Oh shit, I'm sweating it. I'm a dead man. I'm a dead man. You're gonna say the worst things to yourself, you know? But if you've been prepared and you've been getting up every morning and you got the right shoes and you've been working out, it's gonna be a walk in the park. It's gonna be a walk in the park. You wanna know why? Because it's the same, it's your mentality, right? It's the same dude, same race. Nothing's changed, you know, except for the mentality. And that's what we do. We pre-mental ourselves. We go, oh shit, I'm gonna be embarrassed. So let me put this. What did he call it? What did Larry Olson call it? He called it a like a reference point or something where we get back to our old ways where we know we're going to be embarrassed. So we just go, okay, whenever someone says singing, I act this way. RAR, I think is what he called it. I can't remember. He had a system for it. It was something like the way that he processed everything. When things happen, he would do it like this. He would say, okay, well, let me go into my Rolodex and be embarrassed and be aware of something really bad happening and expect it to be that way, right? Well, we don't have to expect it to be any way that we don't want it to be, right? We can make it exactly the way that we want it to be by putting energy after it. And that was something that was huge for all of us, is to have our energy and get our energy right and do it right. And that's the most important part
Using
for
to measure
all of us.
myself. By what standard am I judging myself and everyone around me? This level, which takes constant questioning and effort, is incredibly difficult to reach. But it's the most important, because our values determine the nature of our problems, and the nature of our problems determines the quality of our lives. Values underlie everything we are and do. If what we value is unhelpful, if what we consider success/failure is poorly chosen, then everything based upon those values, the thoughts, the emotions, the day-to-day feelings, will all be out of whack. Everything we think and feel about a situation ultimately comes back to how valuable we perceive it to be. Most people are horrible at answering these why questions accurately, and this prevents them from achieving a deeper knowledge of their own values. Sure, they may say they value honesty and a true friend, but then they turn around and lie about you behind your back to make themselves feel better. People may perceive that they feel lonely, but when they ask themselves why they feel lonely, they tend to come up with a way to blame others. Everyone else is mean, or
Buzzing
no one is
messages
cool or
just fucked
smart
up my
enough to
phone.
understand them, and thus they further
There we
avoid their
go. This
problem
message
instead of
just buzzed
seeking
up
to
my
solve
phone
it.
and did everything
For
the
many
wrong way
people,
right
this
there.
passes as
So I can't even get a
self-awareness.
message without the
And
phone
yet,
flopping.
if they were able to go deeper and look at their underlying values, they would see that their original analysis was based on avoiding responsibility for their own problem, rather than accurately identifying the problem. They would see that their decisions were based on chasing highs, not generating true happiness. Most self-help gurus ignore this deeper level of self-awareness as well. They take people who are miserable because they want to be rich, and then give them all sorts of advice on how to make more money, all the while ignoring important values-based questions. Why do they feel such a need to be rich in the first place? How are they choosing to measure success/failure for themselves? Is it not perhaps some particular value that's the root cause of their unhappiness, and not the fact that they don't drive a Bentley yet? Much of the advice out there operates at a shallow level of simply trying to make people feel good in the short term, while the real long-term problems never get solved. People's perceptions and feelings may change, but the underlying values, and the metrics by which those values are assessed, stay the same. This is not real progress. This is just another way to achieve more highs. Honest self-questioning it.
And that's what we do at Saints Addiction. We self question. We talk about the things that we do to cover up what's inside and the things we keep putting energy on because, that's a high, right? Just like drama. Drama can be a high, and you're like, I don't want any drama in my life. But there's some people that are addicted to drama. They're like, yo, dude, like it's the only thing I got going on. And as soon as I get some, it's the first thing I post, it's the first thing I complain about. I can't wait to get some attention through drama. Oh, thank you. About the burps. But that's us. We're living in a world where we convince ourselves of certain things because that's our value set. And we don't know what our value set is because we go into it every day. We just act as if we're autonomous and that things are just autonomously doing things without us. I want to say Geppetto because I guess they got the new Pinocchio with Tom Hanks and stuff, the new movie Pinocchio. That's what I'm talking about. It's like he wants to be a real boy. He wants to have real problems, real adventure, real life. And I was talking that to my mom the other day when they were like, that's part of the season is that you need to change. You need to leave your mom's safety of a nest so you can go have adventure. Sure, it's really safe here at the house, but you'll never spread your wings. You'll never get out there unless you fucking get out there. And that's what we do. We hold true to stuff that's keeping us still. I always talk about this stillness, but there's something about being sedated and not doing anything with our energy is something that's really shocked me as a person where, especially with the past, and we're doing this thing where We're trying to relive the past and change the outcome and change the narrative. Basically, what we're trying to do is control the narrative through a very narrow value set. As long as we think other people think we're successful, as long as this stuff thinks, and there's something that was happening to me too. Instead of being grateful, right, I'm doing all sorts of things of comparison. I'm feeling of loss. You know what I'm saying? I'm not thinking about giving. I'm thinking about what was taken from me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm concentrated on the losses, right? And I magnified the losses instead of saying I'm still alive. You know, so instead of having great gratitude for the message and the mistake and how powerful it's going to make me from learning from these mistakes, most of us, we hide from it. We're embarrassed by the problems that we have. And it's in us, and I don't even like using the words, the challenges that we have. I don't even use the word problems, but we view them as problems when we should be viewing them as challenges and accepting the challenge because it teaches us who we really are. They say don't beg for an easy life. That's your boy, Jason. That's not his name. It's Jason Minks. Someone said Jason Minks. That's not even close. Bruce Lee. You know, when we say certain things like that, when we're like, you know, I really, you know, want to challenge my life, that's taking a lot of risk, and most people don't want to risk life. They want it to be smooth. They're under this illusion that they're in control, and we put ourselves so safe. We're like, we played it safe. That means nothing bad's gonna happen to me as long as I do X, Y, Z. I've done this thing, and here's a case in point. I'm just gonna help you guys out because this is what we do in our brains. Literally, they did a test. I'm gonna put your ass in a room, and I'm gonna tell you that you got to do something to make this light go on. And what ended up happening is people started to create their own rhythms that ended up so weird. Like some people thought that they had to tap 3 times to get the light to turn off, or that if they sat a certain way, the light would turn on. They had one girl exhausting herself that she went through this whole routine of tapping the ceiling and her feet, and she was really exhausted. But because she had built in her mind that because she did it one time, that it was going to happen again, that she had found the routine that unlocked her life. And that's what we do. We get right back to our routines, trying to unlock our lives, expecting that, well, hey, you know, I did this, this, and this, and this last time. That's the way it's going to turn on this time. And that's how we've done it our whole lives. It's kind of like with our parents. We're like, well, if I say it this way, they're going to say yes. If I say it the other way, they're going to say no, blah, 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 insert routine. And that's what we're on. We're on a routine. We're on a holding pattern because we don't want to be challenged. We don't want to be mistake filled. We want to be safe. I'm telling you, a safe life is not a real life. You can pretend that you're safe. You can pretend like you're from harm, or you're the only one that this is happening to, and blah, 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 blah. Bull fucking shit, bro. Bull fucking shit. Everybody's going to get touched. Everybody's going to have an opportunity to face their demons and problems, whether we stuff it down and swallow it and pretend it isn't there, or ignore it. There's a challenge in front of all of us to learn ourselves and to learn our lives.
It's difficult. It requires asking yourself simple questions that are uncomfortable to answer. In fact, in my experience, the more uncomfortable the answer, the more likely it is to be true. Take a moment and think of something that's really bugging you. Now ask yourself why it bugs you. Chances are the answer will involve a failure of some sort. Then take that failure and ask why it seems true to you. What if that failure wasn't really a failure? What if you've been looking at it the wrong way? A recent example from my own life. It bugs me that my brother doesn't return my texts or emails. Why? Because it feels like he doesn't give a shit about me. Why does this seem true? Because if he wanted to have a relationship with me, he would take 10 seconds out of his day to interact with me. Why does his lack of relationship with you feel like a failure? Because we're brothers, we're supposed to have a good relationship. 2 things are operating here, a value that I hold dear, and a metric that I use to assess progress toward that value. My value: brothers are supposed to have a good relationship with one another. My metric: being in contact by phone or email. This is how I measure my success as a brother. By holding on to this metric, I make myself feel like a failure, which occasionally ruins my Saturday mornings. We could dig even deeper by repeating the process. Why are brothers supposed to have a good relationship? Because they're family, and family are supposed to be close. Why does that seem true?
What's up?
Because your family is supposed to matter to you more than anyone else. Why does that seem true? Because being close with your family is normal and healthy, and I don't have that. In this exchange, I'm clear about my underlying value, having a good relationship with my brother, but I'm still struggling with my metric. I've given it another name, closeness, but the metric hasn't really changed. I'm still judging myself as a brother based on frequency of contact, and comparing myself, using that metric, against other people I know. Everyone else, or so it seems, has a close relationship with their family members, and I don't. So obviously there must be something wrong with me. But what if I'm choosing a poor metric for myself and my life? What else could be true that I'm not considering? Well, perhaps I don't need to be close to my brother to have that good relationship that I value. Perhaps there just needs to be some mutual respect, which there is. Or maybe mutual trust is what to look for, and it's there. Perhaps these metrics would be better assessments of brotherhood than how many text messages he and I exchange.
And that's how I started to measure myself. I measured myself by a metric saying, I'm 42 years old, I should be married, I should have kids. And my grandma's on the belief that it's not your time. This lady was toxic. She already had a dumpster fire of a life, Saint, and she was manipulating you through her narcissistic tendencies. It's not just you being narcissistic. It wasn't just you that made a decision. This is our lives. And we have peg marks that we hold ourselves to, and we compare ourselves to other people, other things, and then we're bumming ourselves out. We're going, well, I didn't make it, so therefore I feel less about myself, even though this metric isn't realistic. Even though everyone has lost, we all try to be lossless. And I was like, there's so much value in our loss. I didn't realize it. There was so much value in our energy. You know, again, it's my meat, it's my money, my energy, my attention, and my time. What do I put my meat in? And I was realizing that I was putting my meat through a metric that judged myself. I was in this metric that said, you know, you're not successful because you haven't made XYZ. You're comparing yourself to Justin Timberlake. He's banged all the hotties of Hollywood. He's got all the money. Why haven't you been successful since you were 19? And you're like, oh shit, man, I need people to believe that I'm successful. I need them to know that, you know, I pulled the Andrew Tate out my ass and made everybody think that I'm popular. What a horrible metric. You know, then when he goes deeper into this, because you got to put in your own 5 hours to watch this show, and I'll let you listen to it too. But the subtle art of not giving a fuck, what he really goes into is like, you know, how waste of time that is. To want to be popular has no value at all. To want to challenge the status quo and challenge people, there's value in that. I'm gonna let the mic drop, but think about it. If we didn't always just get along with everybody, then our conflict resolutions go up. We're not afraid of appeasing people and living a lie anymore. Kind of like that whole Russian thing, and stop, oh yeah, we'll do lunch, and stop saying things that you don't mean. When I was talking about my reliable models, and they were supposed to give me their word and give me the business cards and said they were gonna do that, and that didn't happen. Well, guess what? Now we're talking about it again. Now we're talking about ourselves being extremely responsible for the energies we put out and the metrics and the values we set for ourselves. If we were sitting there in true appreciation, right, like a Holocaust victim, I always try to compare it to something really worse or something, but this morning, like, I got a shower. I'm in the air conditioning. It's 110 degrees out there, dude. I already started sweating in the beginning of this show. I'm grateful to be in the air conditioning with the fan on me right now. And I started to comfort myself and sedate myself and start smoking and make my own reality when all those things are decisions. Not one of us are making decisions to get more difficult, to challenge ourselves, to reach past the mistake and look for the risk in it. Nobody wants to risk to look foolish to people because we're too busy appeasing each other. We're too busy trying to keep up the airs and compete with the Joneses instead of keeping it real with people. And that's where my show started to blow up. Is people started to go, you know what? You're not the only one to lose a child to an unwanted abortion, Saint. 5 different one of my friends came out the woodwork, bro, and started to share their stories with me of things that they were embarrassed to say and what's the other word? Regret their decisions or what had happened to them. And all of us are sitting around thinking we got a Justin Timberlake story, but even his story ain't perfect. You know, Britney Spears is really not perfect. We like to idolize people and think that that's it. We convince ourselves, as soon as I make that money, as Soon as I get the boob job, I'm in it to win it, and I'm gonna get the boyfriend that I want. Instead of, why am I not talking to the man of my dreams right now? Why haven't I grabbed my balls or my ovaries at the gym and asked some nice girl? One girl was saying like, "Oh, can you hold this for me? My hands are full," and came back and then small talked the dude that she wanted to talk to. It was so slick. Girls can get game too. Girls, get your fucking game on because you can get game too. But without no intention, you're just sitting there. Again, we're pacifying ourselves, hoping that the man of our dreams going to call us instead of setting out our intentions. We don't know because we've already pre-told ourselves the story in the ending. Oh, he's probably busy. She's probably dating someone. You don't know because you've actually kept yourself from knowing. And that was so awesome about this Not Give a Fuck book that he wrote, was in the way that he talked, was it was just like, yeah, we told ourselves a whole story that she probably won't like me. She probably got a boyfriend. She's probably too busy. I put myself in a situation where I created my own parameters. I created my own restrictions. And instead of going to find out my motherfucking self, I sat there. I'm putting this on me. I just sat there and I took it on the chin and I let time go by instead of experimenting. I played it safe. I can't get that job. I pre-told myself my own restrictions instead of finding the restrictions, instead of finding the holes like a raptor in Jurassic Park and finding the weakness in this fence system. We stay in a fence that we created ourselves. It's probably not even a straight fence. It's like probably a weird shape, but that's us, each one of us with our own fucking thoughts in our heads. And instead of taking action, we keep thinking. We keep, instead of acting, like that's one of my favorite part of the Maverick movie, this new Top Gun movie, was he was like, don't think, just do. Don't think, just do. And that just do at Nike is so huge because it takes action. It sets in a whole part of cosmics and energies that's about to change the outcome. If nothing changes, nothing changes. We never fucking put nothing new in the input, so our output's always the same. And we're like, yep, experts. Yep, told you it would be another brick. Told you she would cheat on me. Told you he's a cheater. Like, we put these things in our head only to reinforce it. Again, it's the story that we start telling, and because we're missing parts of the story, we fill it in with the things that make sense to us. Instead of it being actual fact that the person really did cheat on us, we're assuming the fact that what happened to our past will be our future, and that all these things are happening to us, not because of us, when we're directly responsible for all of it. And you're going to be like, well, it was just an accident. You got into a car accident. Yeah, but you were on the road in a vehicle that has insurance, and this is what happens when accidents happen. Somebody's got to pay for it. Somebody's got to pay for the accidents of your life. And most of us don't want to pay that price. We don't want to pay the price of learning ourselves and learning from our mistakes. We don't want any mistakes at all. We want to be hyper intelligent, hyper vigilant, and everything's going to work in our favor. But to get the intelligence, to earn it, means to experience it. Isn't that crazy? Like, you got to go through it to earn it. You know what I'm saying? And then so you actually got to swallow it, ingest it, chew on it, and figure it the fuck out and put some energy in it for it to change the equation. And so many of us are holding on to it like water, and we're trying to just squeeze and squeeze and squeeze like we're in control. And the fact is, we're not in control. We're not in control of what people think of us. We're not in control of our reputation. So this constant calculating of what people think of me, or what I got to defend, or my ego has to show up because I feel like I got to correct them or set the record straight. What if you weren't the person that was the center of attention all the time? What if you weren't the center of conversation? What if you could allow it to change? Hybridize your energy. Literally become the new version of energy. Is like, it's from solar, it's from wind, it's from within. I just made that up. Thank you. But that's where I'm at with my thoughts right now. This guy really did fucking light me up. Let me see. Let me get some more intelligence on everybody real quick.
Of failure. If nothing improved in that year, then it would be apparent that he was truly powerless to the circumstances around him, and then he would take his own life. The punchline? William James went on to become the father of American psychology.
Hold up. I gotta
So
rewind
despite the fact that Hero saw himself as a success, and despite the fact he lived up to his metrics, I think we can all agree that his life really sucked. None of us would trade shoes with him given the opportunity, nor would we commend his
I think
actions.
that's a story.
Dave Mustaine achieved great fame and glory, 150 million more records, then everything will be great. Despite being depressed and distraught by getting kicked out of the Beatles, as he grew older he learned to reprioritize what he cared about and was able to measure his life in a new light. Because of this, Best grew into a happy and healthy old man
Working on
with
our
an easy
values.
life and great
What do we
family.
really value?
Things that,
What do we put our
ironically,
energy behind?
the four Beatles would spend decades
Are we
struggling to
worried
achieve
about what
or
other people are
maintain.
thinking about
When we
us
have poor
instead of
values,
thinking
that
about
is,
how we feel
poor
with our own
standards we
values?
set for ourselves and others, we are essentially self-improvement is really the backwards law we took to. The next is failure, the willingness to discover your own flaws and mistakes so that they may be improved upon. The fourth is rejection, the ability to both say and hear no, thus clearly defining what you will and will not accept in your life. The final value is the contemplation of one's own mortality. This one is crucial, because paying vigilant attention to one's own death is perhaps the only thing capable of helping us keep all our other values in proper perspective. Copyright 2020 Karen White.
Karen White.
Website,
She always says her website like every hour or
KarenWhiteAudiobooks.com.
something. It's so funny.
Facebook,
She
Facebook.com/Karen
she does her
White
own pitch, like a little
Twitter,
15 second,
Twitter.com
like 30
slash
second.
Karen
what
White
up
reads,
there? Yeah.
or else he'll kill you and your entire family.
There we go.
Chapter 5. You are always choosing. Imagine that somebody puts a gun to your head and tells you that you have to run 26.2 miles in under 5 hours, or else he'll kill you and your entire
Told you
family.
guys this story.
That would suck. Now imagine that you bought nice shoes and running gear,
Yeah, man, I got
trained
another
religiously
15
for
minutes. You
months,
go enjoy your
and
life,
completed
bro.
your first marathon with all of your closest family and friends cheering you on at the finish line.
Take action.
That could potentially be one of the proudest moments of your life. Exact same 26.2 miles. Exact same person running them. Exact same pain coursing through your exact same legs. But when you chose it freely and prepared for it, it was a glorious and important
Choosing freely.
milestone in your life. When it was forced upon you against your will,
You gotta
it was
go
one of the
skiing
most
right now.
terrifying
You're
and
gonna be like,
painful
"Fuck you."
experiences of
Right
your
now,
life.
you're like, I can't wait to
Often
go
the
skiing.
only
Let me
difference
get off
between
this
a
phone.
problem
I
being
wanna go
painful
skiing.
or being powerful is a sense that we chose it, and that we are responsible for it.
I chose it.
If you're miserable in your current situation, chances are it's because you feel like some part of it is outside your control. That there's a problem you have no ability to solve, a problem that was somehow thrust upon you without your choosing. When we feel that we're choosing our problems, we feel empowered. When we feel that our problems are being forced upon us against our will, we feel victimized and miserable.
Bro, I'm sending you
The
this.
choice.
I'm sending it to everybody.
William
today.
James had
I'm
problems.
inboxing it to
Really
everyone.
bad problems. Although born into a wealthy and prominent family, from birth James suffered life-threatening health issues, an eye problem that left him temporarily
like real
blinded as a
psychology.
child, a
It's
terrible
like-
stomach condition that caused
He's
excessive
keeping it
vomiting
so
and forced
fucking
him to
real.
adopt an
You know, it's
obscure
not
and
even
highly
funny.
sensitive
Keep it
diet,
fucking
trouble
real.
with his hearing,
You know,
back
this
spasms
one's
so
the
bad that for
subtle art
days
of
at a
not giving
time
a
he
fuck.
often
The other
couldn't
one's
sit
fuck
or
your
stand
feelings. This
upright.
is keep it fucking real.
Due to his health
101.
problems, James
Seems
spent
addiction.
most of his time at home. He didn't have many friends, and he wasn't particularly good at school.
I'm
Instead,
just gonna play
he
this
passed the
part,
days painting.
and then I'm gonna.
That was the only thing he liked and the only thing he felt particularly good at. Unfortunately, nobody else thought he was good at it. When he grew to adulthood, nobody bought his work. And as the years dragged on, his father, a wealthy businessman, began ridiculing him for his laziness and his lack of talent. Meanwhile, his younger brother, Henry James, went on to become a world-renowned novelist. His sister, Alice James, made a good living as a writer as well. William was the family oddball, the black sheep. In a
Black
desperate
sheep.
attempt to salvage the young
I'm a black
man's
sheep.
future, James's father used his business connections to get him admitted into Harvard Medical School. It was his last chance, his
Harvard.
father told him. If he screwed this up, there was no hope for him. But James never
was
felt at
deserved.
home or at peace at Harvard. Medicine never appealed to him. He spent the whole time feeling like a fake and a fraud. After all,
Been there, bro.
if he couldn't overcome his own problems, how could he ever hope to have the energy to help
How can
others
you
with
shut his
theirs?
dad up?
After touring a psychiatric facility one day, James mused in his diary that he felt he had more in common with the patients than with the doctors. A few years went
It's
by and,
addiction.
again to his father's disapproval, James dropped out of medical school. But rather than deal with the brunt of his father's wrath, he decided to get away.
Escape.
He signed up to join an anthropological expedition to the Amazon rainforest.
Went to Amazon like
This was
Hamilton,
in
my
the
best friend right now.
1860s, so transcontinental travel was difficult and dangerous.
Months.
If you ever
Months
played
on a
the
boat.
computer game Oregon Trail when you were a kid, it was kind of like that.
He's
with the
talking about Oregon
dysentery
Trail
and
right
drowning
now.
oxen and
I mean,
everything.
it's mid.
Anyway, James made it all the way to the Amazon, where the real adventure was to begin.
Real.
Surprisingly, his fragile health held up that whole way. But once he finally made it, on the first day of the expedition, he promptly contracted smallpox and nearly died in the jungle.
Damn. First
Then
day.
his back spasms returned,
Damn.
painful to the point of making James unable
I
to
heard you
walk.
cried.
By this time, he was emaciated and starved from the smallpox, immobilized by his bad back, and left alone in the middle of South America, the rest of the expedition having gone on without him, with no clear way to get home, a journey that would take months and likely kill him anyway.
Like I did with
But
Hamilton.
somehow he eventually made it back to New England,
Left
where
him
he
there.
was greeted by
He's making
an
it back.
even more disappointed father. By
Dad's
this
still
point, the
pissed.
young man
I'm
wasn't
not a
so
baby
young
no more,
anymore,
Dad. I'm 30.
nearly 30 years
What's up
old,
with it?
still unemployed, a failure at everything he had attempted,
Failure at
with a
everything.
body that routinely betrayed him and wasn't likely to ever get better. Despite all the advantages and opportunities he'd been given in life, everything had fallen apart. The only constants in his life seemed to be suffering and disappointment.
Been there, bro.
James fell into a deep depression and began making plans to take his own life.
This is where it gets
But
good.
one night, while reading lectures by the
This is the
philosopher
promise.
Charles Peirce,
I'm gonna let you guys, Charles Peirce, I'm gonna let this sink in. And anybody got to watch this message. It's already 50 minutes of the show, so I definitely want you to go. I'm only doing hours, and this is out. But what he says changed my life.
James decided to conduct a little experiment. In his diary, he wrote that he would spend 1 year believing that he was 100% responsible for everything that occurred in his life, no matter what. During this period, he would do everything in his power to change his circumstances, no matter the likelihood of failure. If nothing improved in that year, then it would be apparent that he was truly powerless to the circumstances around him, and then he would take his own life.
He planned
The
it to a
punchline?
year.
William James went on to become the father of American psychology. His work has been translated into a bazillion languages, and he's regarded as one of the most influential intellectuals/philosophers/psychologists of his generation. He would go on to teach at Harvard and would tour much of the United States and Europe
Teach at
giving
Harvard.
lectures.
Shut up, Dad.
He would marry and have 5 children, one of whom,
Still have babies.
Henry, would become a famous biographer and win a Pulitzer Prize.
And his kid wins the
James would
Pulitzer.
later refer to his little experiment as his rebirth, and would credit it with everything that he later accomplished in his life. There is a simple realization from which all personal improvement and growth emerges. This is the realization that we, individually, are responsible for everything in our lives, no matter the external circumstances. We don't always control what happens to us, but we always control how we interpret what happens to us, as well as how we respond. Whether we consciously recognize it or not, we are always responsible for our experiences. It's impossible not to be. Choosing to not consciously interpret events in our lives is still an interpretation of the events of our lives. Choosing to not respond to the events in our lives is still a response to the events in our lives. Even if you get run over by a clown car and pissed on by a busload of school children, it's still your responsibility to interpret the meaning of the event and choose a response. Whether we like it or not, we are always taking an active role in what's occurring to and within us. We are always interpreting the meaning of every moment and every occurrence. We are always choosing the values by which we live and the metrics by which we measure everything that happens to us. Often the same event can be good or bad, depending on the metric we choose to use. The point is, we are always choosing, whether we recognize it or not. Always. It comes back to how, in reality, there is no such thing as not giving a single fuck. It's impossible. We must all give a fuck about something. To not give a fuck about anything is still to give a fuck about something. The real question is, what are we choosing to give a fuck about? What values are we choosing to base our actions on? What metrics are we choosing to use to measure our life? And are those good choices, good values and good metrics? The responsibility/fault fallacy. Years ago, when I was much younger and stupider, I wrote a blog post, and at the end of it I said something like, and as a great philosopher once said, with great power comes great responsibility. It sounded nice and authoritative. I couldn't remember who had said it, and my Google search had turned up nothing, but I stuck it in there anyway. It fit the post nicely. About 10 minutes later, the first comment came in. I think the great philosopher you're referring to is Uncle Ben from the movie Spider-Man. As another great philosopher once said, though, with great power comes great responsibility. The last words of Uncle Ben before a thief whom Peter Parker let get away murders him on a sidewalk full of people for absolutely no explicable reason. That great philosopher. Still, we've all heard the quote. It gets repeated a lot, usually ironically and after about 7 beers. It's one of those perfect quotes that sound really intelligent, and yet it's basically just telling you what you already know, even if you've never quite thought about the matter before. With great power comes great responsibility. It is true. But there's a better version of this quote, a version that actually is profound, and all you have to do is switch the nouns around. With great responsibility comes great power. The more we choose to accept responsibility in our lives, the more power we will exercise over our lives. Accepting responsibility for our problems is thus the first step to solving them. I once knew a man who was convinced that the reason no woman would date him was because he was too short. He was educated, interesting, and good-looking, a good catch, in principle, but he was absolutely convinced that women found him too short to date. And because he felt that he was too short, he didn't often go out and try to meet women. The few times he did, he would home in on the smallest behaviors from any woman he talked with that could possibly indicate he wasn't attractive enough for her and then convince himself that she didn't like him, even if she really did. As you can imagine, his dating life sucked. What he didn't realize was that he had chosen the value that was hurting him, height. Women, he assumed, are attracted only to height. He was screwed, no matter what he did. This choice of value was disempowering. It gave this man a really crappy problem. Not being tall enough in a world meant, in his view, for tall people. There are far better values that he could have adopted in his dating life. I want to date only women who like me for who I am might have been a nice place to start, a metric that assesses the values of honesty and acceptance. But he did not choose these values. He likely wasn't even aware that he was choosing his value, or could do so. Even though he didn't realize it, he was responsible for his own problems. Despite that responsibility, he went on complaining, "But I don't have a choice," he would tell the bartender. "There's nothing I can do. Women are superficial and vain and will never like me." Yes, it's every single woman's fault for not liking a self-pitying, shallow guy with shitty values. Obviously. A lot of people hesitate to take responsibility for their problems because they believe that to be responsible for your problems is to also be at fault for your problems. Responsibility and fault often appear together in our culture. But they're not the same thing. If I hit you with my car, I am both at fault and likely legally responsible to compensate you in some way. Even if hitting you with my car was an accident, I am still responsible. This is the way fault works in our society. If you fuck up, you're on the hook for making it right. And it should be that way. But there are also problems that we aren't at fault for, yet we are still responsible for them. For example, if you woke up one day and there was a newborn baby on your doorstep, it would not be your fault that the baby had been put there, but the baby would now be your responsibility. You would have to choose what to do. And whatever you ended up choosing, keeping it, getting rid of it, ignoring it, feeding it to a pit bull, there would be problems associated with your choice, and you would be responsible for those as well. Judges don't get to choose their cases. When a case goes to court, the judge assigned to it did not commit the crime, was not a witness to the crime, and was not affected by the crime, but he or she is still responsible for the crime. The judge must then choose the consequences. He or she must identify the metric against which the crime will be measured and make sure that the chosen metric is carried out. We are responsible for experiences that aren't our fault all the time. This is part of life. Here's one way to think about the distinction between the two concepts. Fault is past tense. Responsibility is present tense. Fault results from choices that have already been made. Responsibility results from the choices you're currently making, every second of every day. You are choosing to read this. You are choosing to think about the concepts. You are choosing to accept or reject the concepts. It may be my fault that you think my ideas are lame, but you are responsible for coming to your own conclusions. It's not your fault that I chose to write this sentence, but you are still responsible for choosing to read it, or not. There's a difference between blaming someone else for your situation and that person's actually being responsible for your situation. Nobody else is ever responsible for your situation but you. Many people may be to blame for your unhappiness, but nobody is ever responsible for your unhappiness but you. This is because you always get to choose how you see things, how you react to things, how you value things. You always get to choose the metric by which to measure your experiences. My first girlfriend dumped me in spectacular fashion. She was cheating on me with her teacher. It was awesome.
I don't need to let him tell his story. It's his own personal story. But that last 10 minutes of him speaking changed my life. And I just had to get that out there to the sphere. I don't even call it the manosphere, the world sphere, to other people to learn some of these things. I thought it was really interesting for willpower from the Navy SEAL for go fuck your feelings, but this is the subtle art of not giving a fuck. Had nothing to do with it at all. It's really mislabeled. It was really more like I called it extreme responsibility. And people probably wouldn't have bought that book. So, they definitely read this one twice and they're using movie stars to cover it. But my point being is, I'm going to send this to everyone today. It's been an hour of your time. Thank you for watching with me. Thank you for sharing your time with me. But definitely go into the world with this. Listen to it as a 5-hour audio book. What's his name called? Mark Manson. The Manson theory, like Marilyn Manson. It's Mark Manson. Mark say we're in this bitch together. Damn. If you get a chance, just go check it out. Like I said, it's 5 hours. It looks like this on YouTube, and it's amazing information. And I probably can listen to it like 3 times, to be honest with you, just to digest it, and I even rewind parts of it. So don't be afraid to experiment with yourself, like especially that one year where he planned to kill himself, but he planned it out so detailed that he actually had a date for himself to do the most he could. I'll let you go with that. Peace and love, and as always, Chigathon. That means goodbye, but not forever, Phoenix. And I will see you on the other side as soon as you like, share, subscribe, and more than anything, comment how that you downloaded it or heard it or reread it or anything that after you listened to it like I did. Please, I'd love to hear what other people digested from this book so I can digest it more, regurgitate it to me. I am that down for knowledge, and it was that impactful to me. So choosing joy, choosing action. That's what I really got out of this thing. Was it was just like, shit, dude, I'm so responsible now. I'm not so passive anymore. I might be able to smoke a little bit of weed, and that's part of my routine. But definitely breaking routine, definitely staying uncomfortable, definitely pushing myself to be more vulnerable and real, and stop trying to put so much energy into my external and hoping that someone will like me and I'll just be me, but not a mean version of me, just an honest version of me. It does seem to sit well with a lot of people. A lot of people want that fakeness, and like he was saying, we're putting a lot of airs in the air for people that don't even care. And if we adjusted our value sets and really put attention and energy behind what our values really are, what are we really valuing, it transforms our lives, it transforms our attitudes and mentality towards the thing before we even know it. We're doing calculus now. We're calculating calculus. And before, I think everybody was maybe on some kind of algebra, maybe a basic form of multiplication, but this is full on calculus, and it's fucking dope. So get in where you fit and get this knowledge, get your game up. Comment below. Holler at me later. Peace and love. Ciao. I'll see you on the other side.